Hi, friends, and thanks for listening to The Fashionista Life, brought to you by True Fashionistas, where you can shop, sell, and look fabulous. I am your host, Jennifer Johnson, and today we welcome into the studio Carolyn Homburger. Welcome.
Thank you, Jen. So glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you're back. The first time that we had you on, we were talking about your new business.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about something else.
All right.
So I'm just going to read for our listeners what you've done. Okay. So you help organizations and teams achieve more than they thought possible. I love that. And you help them set clear visions and priorities and align resources and help them engage the entire team to exceed performance goals. That is so important for any business of any size.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to get there.
That's right.
And then you get lost along the way.
That's right.
So Carolyn has become the go-to resource for C-suite leaders, board members, and business owners to develop innovative and enterprise solutions. And you've done quite a bit in your life. And I want to talk about how you get started, because when I think of, and is fintech typically as a new kind of term?
It is a little bit of a new term.
Financial technology?
That's exactly right. It stands for financial technology. And I think it really kind of formed about 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So not really that new.
It's been around, but it's not well known.
Yes.
And I mean, the best way to think about it, Jen, is the digitization of financial services. And, we all know, I mean, you do everything on your phone now. But it was obviously a journey really to get there as phones, became more prolific and people grew accustomed to the convenience of digitization, if you will. So
is it banking? Is it credit cards, or is it a combination?
Yeah. So fintech is pretty broad. Financial services, I actually looked this up for for us. So financial services is actually a $26 trillion industry globally. Yeah, we're talking pretty big.
Yeah.
Fintech is actually about 1% of that, but it's growing 20 to 30% of the year because that's, obviously the future. So the way to think about fintech or financial technology is it's all financial services lending, it's digital banking, and really probably the biggest part of it that's been around the longest that I worked in for 15 plus years is payments. And we all know now, payments are all digitized, except for in this country where we still write checks. But for the most part,
somebody tried to give us a check one day.
I know.
And I mean, we still have to write checks to our consigners.
Yep.
But we have other ways of doing that now if we so choose.
Absolutely.
Which is safer.
Much safer.
Way safer. And oh my gosh, I could talk for a whole podcast on that. But
amen. That's the business I'm in, Jen. So you don't have to sell me.
Oh my gosh.
So
what led you down to that path? I'm sure you probably didn't go to school and go, oh, this is what I want to do, like everybody, right? What brought you there?
So it's a little bit of I found it and it found me, so to speak. So I very briefly started my career 20 years ago in corporate finance. I actually worked at a General Electric at a manufacturing. And when I was looking to make a change, I knew that I wanted to work in the technology industry. I really saw it as a multiplier for people. And, as we now know, that's where a lot of investment and exciting things are happening. I also wanted to work in an industry that was global. I traveled a lot. I speak French.
Oh my gosh, you do?
Oh yeah. So
really? That's all I know. When we went to France this summer, I had to use my little Google Translator, and I swear these people looked at us like
oh boy. But you know what? You made the effort. That's important. So I think, as I thought about those two things and industries I wanted to work in, actually the CFO that I worked for at GE became CFO of what was ACI, the company that I worked for 15 years. And that's kind of how I landed in financial technology. So
during that 15 years,
yes,
you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. Like, what is your one takeaway from corporate America? during that 15 years. Now you're still in corporate America, but
I am.
you also own a business, but like that first 15 years.
Yeah.
Like
I think probably what I learned the most in working for large scale companies, so $1 billion plus in annual revenues, was the importance. And I think it's really what transformed my career, which was building great teams.
And that's basically what created your success in.
Absolutely, unquestionably. And being able to put together a group of people that bring different perspectives, bring different experiences. And I'm a huge believer that 1 + 1 can be 3 if you have the right team and the right
That's a good
culture.
saying.
Oh, yeah.
Love
it. Oh, that's funny.
So, but when I think of it, is this primarily, and I hate to say this, but it seems like in banking.
Yep.
Back 20 years ago, it was like a guy's world.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You, I assume, had to break through some of that because that was happening 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Oh, it's still the
is,
case,
I'm sure.
Jen. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people in financial technology, I've been very active in industry associations like Women in Pay Tech and Women in Payments. But, even my company today, we're about 70% men, 30% women. And I always, looked at that as, how do I, flip it? And, I'm different. How do I, to use that to my advantage? And, so I got involved in organizations like, I just talked about, a lot of women are, who in their homes are driving the financial decisions.
Of course they are.
Both investing decisions, in, consumer spending. So I, really tried to think, okay, yes, I'm different, but how do I use that as an advantage? And it's not always easy, as as a business owner. And I'm sure you've had your fair share of challenges.
Absolutely.
But, you find the right set of mentors and advocates, and you figure it out and make your way. So
what's the biggest difference between working for corporate America and then having your own business? Now that you see both sides of the coin.
That's right.
What's your take on that? Like,
I think it's a few things. I think as a small business owner, you have to wear so many hats versus as a, in the corporate world, you kind of start your career and you specialize in something and you really learn it deeply. As you progress, obviously things become a little more general and you rely on your team, so to speak. But in a small business with a small team, it's you.
Yes,
you're sweeping the floor and you're delivering programming and you're running the financials at night. So I think that's a huge difference. I think really understanding scale, though, and how you operate a business at scale helps you be a very thoughtful entrepreneur, and where you put your time and when as you're growing your business. So.
And I love that you say that, because as a small business owner, and I've been a small business owner for 25 plus years.
Yep.
That I didn't have a background in corporate America.
Yeah.
So you saw what scaling looked like.
Yeah.
Right. But because, for example, me and a lot of other entrepreneurs, we didn't have that background.
Yep.
So we don't or haven't seen that. And that's something that I work on in my business now, because you see later on how important that is.
Yeah. No, you are so spot on. And as we both know, until you do it, You don't know.
Right.
So it's, the trick, I think, with whether you're an entrepreneur or corporate is how do you make those learning cycles as quick as possible and fail fast? And
Yeah.
one of the, the differences I find too is it's just the magnitude of the decisions. So you make a mistake in your small business, maybe it costs you a couple $100.
Right.
You make a mistake in a multi-million-dollar corporation, the stakes are much, much higher. So,
absolutely.
but it's still decision making.
It is, right. And now you have to be the cook, the baker, and the candlestick maker all together. And
That's right.
It's eye-opening.
It is. It's fun though.
Oh my gosh. Yes. You have your own destiny in your hands.
That's right. Well, and in my work serving, primarily it was in business to business technology. It's so cool to be on the other side, to be a small business and using and living the payment system and financial services. So it helps me bring such a different perspective when I can speak, in front of a company I'm doing business with and say, oh yeah, I'm one of your customers.
Absolutely.
Too. So it's a huge, I guess it really helps.
Absolutely. It's your competitive advantage in the business that you work for.
Yeah, that's exactly
because
right.
I'm on the front lines here.
Yeah. And that's, I very deliberately for this kind of next chapter, going from corporate to corporate and small business ownership. I'm trying to live out having a portfolio career. And I think this concept is going to be more and more relevant to those mid-career professionals, and for that matter with gig work becoming more prevalent. I'm having so much fun experimenting with it, even with a C-level job and owning a business.
It's the best of both worlds.
It is.
Is your closet overflowing? Or maybe your kids' closets are as well. Or maybe you just want to redecorate your home. If you're wondering what to do with all that stuff that you've accumulated, bring it all to True Fashionistas or even ship it to them for free. They'll sell your unwanted items for you. They take away all the hassle by doing all the work, and all you have to do is sit back and collect your money. You can reach out to them online at truefashionistas.com. Come into the store and check them out on Facebook or on Instagram, and that is truefashionistas.com. All right, friends, we are back with Carolyn Homburger, and we are chatting about fintech and small business, and we're kind of all over the board.
We are.
But that's good. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership.
Yes.
Because you brought up at the very beginning of our podcast about building great teams.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot going into it. Some people are set out to be leaders and others are not set out to be leaders. Let's talk about that a little bit. What would you say the biggest challenge is in holding such a position that you've held of putting together teams and working with teams and leadership?
Yeah, especially global teams.
Yes.
Because the company I work for right now, we're a UK-based company.
Oh
so,
my goodness.
Yeah, it's the first time I work for a company called Featurespace. And it's the first time I've actually worked for a company not headquartered in the US, which has been a really interesting experience. Also a private company, which is, I've always worked for publicly traded companies. So it's been really fun learning kind of those two different.
Have you been there already?
What's that?
To England?
Oh, of course. Many, many times.
Oh
it's awesome, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
So I think, when you're building global teams, I think there's, a couple of things that create challenges, but I argue, that's to me opportunity. Challenge is always opportunity. So I think there's just the pragmatic thing of you're in different time zones. And even, with my British colleagues, we both speak English, obviously, but there's such different expressions.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, the different nuances. So culturally, you really appreciate and have to learn, different priorities and just some of those nuances that, you don't appreciate when you're, just surrounded by Americans all the time. I think, on the flip side, what makes that so exciting is it really brings diverse teams and perspectives together. So, there's things over in Europe and the UK that we have so much to learn from here in the US and vice versa. That I think, it creates an environment that, when you can learn from each other, and especially with technology being so ubiquitous and anyone can access it at any time from anywhere in the world, having that dynamic within your team is just so, so important. So
I totally agree. That's definitely true, right?
yeah,
The world has gotten smaller and smaller, kind of
bigger
adage,
and smaller at the same
right?
time.
So, what is one of your biggest rewards in your career? Whether it be, your years in fintech or what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think what I've loved the most, and to some extent what brought me back into the corporate world at Featurespace for my my next chapter, so to speak. It's the people. I just love the people that I work with. They're so smart. And having this connection to this bigger world out there, it's just so amazing. It's so amazing to travel to and meet people from different walks of life. I think that's what I guess excites me the most when I get out of bed very early in the morning to
because you run and you work out and you do all that.
That's
right.
right. That's right. And I mean, same thing with Athletic Republic. I get to work with so many different people who studied sports. I bring more the business perspective, but having that variety in your relationships, both professionally and personally. I mean, most of my colleagues are always become, very dear friends. And I love, when you're working on something together, and it really creates that joie de vivre. So
what does that mean in English?
Joy of life.
There you go. For your non-French speakers over here.
Speakers.
Well, I just admire the fact that you're so diverse. You've started a business and you're very worldly, traveling, and you've global business that you work with. And it's just so cool. It's just, it broadens your horizons.
That's right.
And lets you see things that.
Well, and each experience, I think, in your life, when you start, you kind of see this and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you could see me, I'm moving my hands out.
Right. Absolutely.
But it creates just such a full and beautiful life. It really does.
So let me ask you this. For individuals, and I'm talking mainly women, okay, that are going to go into, that are just starting their career.
Yes.
3 pieces of advice that you'd have for them.
Oh yeah. This is hard.
To narrow it down?
It's easy and it's hard at the same time. So remember, I'm giving a perspective from being an executive in a corporation, but I do think these principles can apply to, really any career. So I think early on, probably the most important thing, and it was my philosophy and how I went through my education, I always picked the best teachers. I didn't pick the class. I always picked the teacher. And I think that's so true in business. Look around and make sure these are people that you want to spend time with and that will teach you, that will advocate for you, that when you grow beyond them will continue to open doors for you. And I've always worked really, really hard to surround myself with people that challenged me and kind of pushed me to the next level, so to speak. So I think that's super important early in your career.
And that's a great one.
Yes, it is.
It's your whole life.
That's right. Amen. Amen. I think the second thing is, always have a goal. It doesn't necessarily have to be up, if you will. So we always talk about the corporate ladder, and I think it's a bit more of a winding path. But have a goal that's true to yourself, not someone else's goal, whatever your goal is. Because what might be right for someone else isn't necessarily right for you,
Mhm.
and be comfortable that the goal can change. But I do think I always find, and with my teams, we always set goals as a team, set goals as individuals, because you're at your best when you can
Mhm.
feel progress. And I think the last piece of advice is really to take care of yourself.
Drink that water.
Drink the water, exercise, sleep, all the things that I have to remind myself on a daily basis. Because as we know, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's just so easy to get consumed in one thing, whether it's your work or your kids. But you've got to take care of yourself.
Self-care.
That's right.
And I during the pandemic, I had coined something, Self-Care Sunday.
Yes.
Like that's kind of the day to look at your week ahead.
That's right.
And go, what am I going to do next week that's better or different than I did last week that's going to help me?
Yes. I always do that. Like Sunday's always my reflection day. And I think that's so important, Jen, because it helps you rebalance, and you have to have the discipline to do it every week, because that's how quickly it can, you're like, wow, what happened?
Yeah.
How did I get so far off?
And what is that? Is it 61 days that it takes you to create a habit?
Yeah. 21 days.
21 days.
Yes.
61.
Well,
so 21 days to make a
21
habit.
days to create a new habit. That's right.
So, it's not that long.
Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, and I'm a big believer in that too. There's a lot of psychology behind that.
Yeah. So we're going to do fast facts.
Oh,
are you ready? You ready for fast facts? Okay.
I am ready for fast facts.
The best book or podcast that you've listened to lately?
Oh, okay. So I have to have a tie. I think my tie is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I love that book. And then I think one of the books that in my kind of year break from corporate America, I read a book called Halftime by Bob Buford that was really influential in how I thought about this kind of mid-career period of my life. So it's a fabulous book. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. And the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I think it was it's a old Wayne Gretzky quote.
My gosh.
Yes, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that's always when I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I should be going to do this, but sometimes you just have to jump, and having that courage, or surrounding yourself with the people who are like, yeah, no, don't worry. When you jump, there's water in the pool. You're not going to hit the cement.
Unless you can't swim.
Fair enough.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I've always lived by that. And I think it takes smart risks. It's really important. You'll always come out better the other side.
You do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if our listeners would like to get a hold of you for Athletic Republic.
Yes.
How do they do that?
They do that by going to naples.athleticrepublic.com, or they can go to our Facebook or Instagram sites, and they can also call our center. I don't have the phone number on me, but
they'll find it online.
There you go. It's on our website. So
awesome. And we will definitely drop these into our show notes, so all of our guests have that available to them.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Jen, for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. It's been fun. And I know we'll have you on again. There's a lot to talk about, but to fit it into our podcast is hard.
It is.
We could sit here and talk all day.
We could.
So thank you again. And thank you, friends, for listening to The Fashionista Life, brought to you by True Fashionistas. I'm your host, Jennifer Johnson, and make it a fabulous day.